You are listening to episode 183 of Mitolife Radio. Today, I'm interviewing the people over at Analemma Water, Eric Laarakker and Mario Brainovic. I learned about this device through my friend Adam Marafiotti, a previous guest on Mitolife Radio, and I have certain friends that I trust their vetting process when it comes to supplements and devices. So on his recommendation, that was enough for me to give it a try. Basically what it is a quartz glass tube filled with water that you swirl into your drinking water vessel, whether it's a mason jar or I use a pure copper bottle. But what makes it different is it's not just regular water or spring water or water that's been under full moon cycles. They do a lot of different things to it to create this substance called mother water. And they go into that in this interview. So we talk about water in general. I hear their thoughts on it of tap versus well versus spring water. They talk about biophoton emission of water and the studies that they've done so far on water treated with the Analemma wand, one called glycan age, longevity study. They've done an EEG study, and there's a lot more to come that they're in the process of testing. And what I really like is it's way beyond the basic, GDV camera like most companies that I see use, or heart rate variability, both of which can be influenced by so many things, especially the placebo effect. So what's really cool about their product is they have hardcore science behind it, beyond just gas discharge visualization, photon emission from the body and heart rate variability. They're going beyond that and having some really legitimate research being done on it. So we'll jump into the show. Here is Eric Laarakker and Mario Brainovic. All right, I am here with Eric Laarakker and Mario Brainovic. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Matt, so much for having us.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. I think like a lot of people in the natural health field looking into water for years. And my background on it was trying all different types of waters, distilled, went to different wells, went to different springs, and then got into filtration, tried tons of different filtration units. And then I got into, vortexing and all the cool things you could do with the water, like the molecular resonance effect technology. And there's all these different things now that you could soup up your water after you have it from your filter or whatever, wherever you collected it. But the product that you guys came up with is really interesting. This tool called the Analemma wand. And I guess before we jump into, what it does and what it is, how did you guys both get started in this field?
Well, Eric, probably you can start.
Yes, I have to start with it because we started off all 14 years ago with a colleague, Dolph Sandingen. Actually, we were not into water at that moment. We just, I don't know if you ever heard of Fritz Pop biophoton measurements in plants and human beings, etc. We actually took over the whole laboratory 14 years ago after I met Dolph, just to figure out, how life works. And I'm a veterinarian now for 30 years, and I do realize that we don't know anything about neither human body or physical body. We don't have a clue what life is. So we started to research it, and well, actually in a year time, we ended up in water, because water actually, is the basic of life. We have an understanding that our body is 60-70% water, but it's not true. That's in mass, but in molecule wise, it's 99% water. And then we just did some simple tests, to see if you can change water and what it does. to plants. We started off first to test with plants and frequency-wise, when the sun goes through, what happens. And it was amazing to see, that half a centimeter of water actually already changed the whole spectrum, changed the spectrum of the sun, what it lets through, etc., etc. So we decided to go into water. And as you said, there are many, many devices. Most of them, they come up with the same ideas. We have the vortexes. You have the, actually, usually it's vortex magnets and precious stones in it. And that's how it's been done. And you have many of them. But we found out that the biggest issue is that let's put it that way, the memory, and it won't stay for a long time, for a very short period. And so we did a lot of research, worked on it for 14 years, actually, 13 years before we were ready to go on the market, because you want to be sure that, first of all, it does what we say it does. We did a lot of testing on it. And secondly, what's very important, that it stays stable, and we could prove that the water which have been made with our device, even after a year, it's still stable. It still does the same job. And that's quite unique, because otherwise, in these times where we live in, with a lot of radiation, 4G, 5G, everybody has his Wi-Fi in his house, etc. It really, it becomes like chaotic water in a very short moment, sometimes even after a couple of seconds. And people say, well, okay, but then I drink it very quickly, but it's not like it's been isolated in your body. It will change back to like ordinary water very soon. So long story, but that's how it started. And that's where we ended up now.
Yeah, I would just like to give, because Eric covered a lot of ground in 30 seconds, just to give a little background. People don't actually understand that H2O molecules in drinking water behave chaotically. They crash into each other constantly. All of this happens on an atomic level, so people are completely unaware of it. All of this chaos has very profound influence on our overall health and wellness, given that we are 99% water. I mean, like, we are basically very clever water when you look at it. So it's really off the bat, it shows you that there is something extraordinarily important about water. So what happens is, when you swirl our device, Analemma, through the water, what happens is that those same H2O molecules start linking together and behaving harmonically. Through that, they start forming a liquid crystalline structure. And through that unique process, water becomes alive. It becomes empowered, and it can actually do so much for our health and wellness. So people kind of consider water to be just a simple element. There are whole worlds hidden in water. So we definitely believe that the next century will be the century of revolution in water science.
Yeah.
That was all really, really awesome. Did I hear right that it was 14 years before you guys brought it to market? Is that correct? Wow.
Yes. Yes. But I just want to be sure, because I mean, it's actually our goal. It was not, to set up a market, to earn money. And I'm not going to tell you how much money we spent in it, because we had a laboratory, worked with 5 people over there, and it cost over 40,000 euros a month just to do research. But we started off do this because we still are very worried what's happening on this planet. And we were just looking for the main clue in what we can do in a simple way to help this planet. And that is water. And like Mario said, we don't have a clue what water is, but to give you a very simple example, we have an atmosphere around our planet, which we learn at school, that absorbs 70% of the incoming harmful frequencies. And then we forget about it. But if you would compress everything together like liquid water, it's only 3 centimeters of water. I mean, look it up in Wikipedia. Water is a broadband absorber for almost all electromagnetic energies. Almost all. And the funny thing is that the only part on the whole electromagnetic spectrum what it doesn't absorb is actually the visible light. And that's kind of genius, otherwise it would be dark on our planet. So I mean, there's very simple things we see in front of us every day, and we think it's normal, but if you think about it, it's not so normal, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm sure you've looked into the relationship, and I guess this is part of the analemma, but the relationship with light. And I got into studying light therapy and, Jacob Lieberman and a lot of smart people that have been studying, photobiomodulation for a long time and the effect that sunlight has on the water in our body, the ultraviolet, the infrared, all the different things, in between. And water is kind of is it correct to say it's a repository, or it's the medium between, light and magnetism?
Well, I would like to look a little bit in a different way, but it's almost the same. To me, water is a bioquantum computer. And as you probably know, there's a whole change now going on in biology. And we always said that quantum physics is not applicable in the biological system because you cannot, it's too warm. Well, even a simple thing, like a tree, a leaf, actually it's a bioquantum computer. And water, in that way, plays the key role in that whole process. So we look at water as the bioquantum computer, the one who receives it, who changes it and brings it further, in the whole body. Actually, that's the medium where the whole electromagnetic fields reacts on. And it's quite simple. In quantum physics, there's one statement: not matter, but quantum information is the building block of everything. So, and also electromagnetic waves are actually part of the quantum physics. So, and water, in our opinion, is the one who materialize, if you know what I mean, the electromagnetic spectrum, the quantum physics. So it has a key role, the most important role in our body. Without water, nothing will happen. There's literally not one thing to find in your body where water doesn't play the key role. Even, mutations with DNA, water plays a big role in it, because water is the one who preserves the DNA and everything. So water plays a key role in all of life.
Yeah, absolutely. I was raised here in Southern California on municipal water for the first, 25 years of my life or so. And bathing in that and drinking that was very harsh. I had skin issues and allergies and all sorts of health things that would come and go. And, when I started researching natural health 12 years ago, water was one of the first things I started to look into, and the hardness of it. A lot of people just focused in on the pH and alkaline or acid, but I was really focused on the mineral composition of the water and the parts per million. That was kind of the first thing that I would look at, the TDS. And there's so many different aspects to it, right? Would you say there's like priorities? Because to me, like getting clean water is the priority, right? Like swirling the Analemma and municipal Los Angeles water is probably not the way to go.
Well, it is going to, Analemma will create liquid crystalline structure in that water. And it will create, so it's going to be much more powerful than, if you didn't do it. But of course, the best way is to clear all the pathogens out of the water and then to make it coherent and then to drink it. But even if you don't do it, benefits are still there. All of the studies that we did with tap water. We didn't do it with filtered water. So results are still there. But of course, we are actually working on a system which would be coming out very soon. So it's going to be the ultimate water treatment system on the planet. So it will purify the water of all the known pathogens, and it will bring it into coherent state. So you just install it, and that will be basically it. So that's the next level. And it's also very important, many scientists realized, since water is a broadband absorber of energy, so whichever energy is around water is going to absorb it. So can you imagine what we are actually drinking all the time? Where the water goes through, what happens with water? We're treating the water as a non-important element. How we treat water is actually how we treat ourselves. So we want to treat it in the best possible way, because that will definitely reflect on basically everything.
I would like to add one thing to it. I mean, even after cleaning the water from pathogens and chemicals and stuff like that, even that the information of those chemicals will stay. So going back to the statement, not matter but quantum information is the building block of everything, still the information of all the toxins is in there. And you can undo that, with the Analemma stick. So that's why, it's very important not just to clean the water, but also, bring it in a stable, coherent state. So then, only after then, it has the coherent effect on your body. Maybe I can add a little bit on what you said before. The mineral content, of course, is also very important. And you need minerals in the water. That's why I'm personally not in favor to drink distilled water and reverse osmosis. Yes, it takes out a lot of the toxin, but it's also, what we call a depth water. It actually distracts minerals and salts from your body if you drink it for a too long time. So, but everything has its value. I mean, even you talked about the alkaline water. That can be beneficial, like if you're sick or whatever, to get some, to make your body a little bit more alkaline. But personally, we don't consider it as a good idea to drink that all the time. Also because, actually you destroy the coherent structure of water because it's an electrolysis. That's how you do it. And so, yes, you have alkaline water, but in the coherent point of view, let's put it that way, it's not really good to drink it that too much.
Yeah, I completely agree. I went through my distilled water phase, and it would get rid of my sneeze attacks. It had some interesting effects, almost like first aid effects. But long term, I definitely agree. I'm very fortunate here in my cabin. I'm on spring. It's gravity fed spring water, and my previous homes I was on a well, so I've been slowly upgrading from municipal to well to spring. And I would imagine as you go higher up in that, the water is more coherent, I would imagine, but then it also has to travel through my home, which I understand, and whether it's stored in a tank, and there's so many variables, right? I have a whole house vortexer on there, fractal imploder from Dan Winter. And I'm a fan of magnesium bicarbonate being infused into the water. That's what I have in my whole house, my drinking water. And I think people tend to have this misconception that they could just add minerals to their water after they filter it, but that's not really the ideal way to do it. Ideally, you have a remineralization cartridge at the end that's infusing the water via Cordyceps medium or something else that's reacting with the carbonic acid in the water to form, bicarbonate. So yeah, there's so many little details and nuances. That's what I love about water.
Sure.
Yeah, water is amazing. When people start kind of going into it deeply, they realize that there's whole worlds there, which really have when people start understanding, they start changing how they treat the water, how they drink water, what water they're using, and then they can have powerful effects on the long-term health. This is interesting. It's long-term health. So it really has powerful influence down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's jump into the technology. So it's a glass tube of, you guys say, coherent water, and I've listened to a few interviews. I think with Dolph, and I believe he said that it took, what was it, 2 or 3 years to make that water. Can you kind of go into that process a little bit?
True. Now, actually, there's like, we have built a device. There is no electricity, nothing, in that. And it goes to a couple of stages. And more or less, we copy the cosmos. And, it's just been used, metals, forms, and stuff like that. And the interesting thing is, not a lot of vortex ideas about it, because we found out, like I said, after the vortex, it just stays there for a short moment of time. And so many geometric forms are involved. Actually, even lightning is involved. But then to finish it off, to make it stable, we make the water just at certain times during certain star constellations, when it's more open to a certain information. And water really is amazing. In our research, we found, for example, that even 2 hours before the sun rises, the water already knows that the sun is rising. We did research like on seeds, and we found out if they give the right water, it truly gets more in contact with the moon. They produce a lot more biophotons according to the moon cycle, etc. So all of that, it's also part of quantum physics, is very important when you create the water. So, and a colleague, Kees Elshout, he helped us, to set up the right dates, the right moments to make that water. And it had to go through like all the seasons. We had to do it 4 times. And then we had like the yin water and the yang water. So it took us every time a year. And according to the astrologers, we had to do it last couple of years. We only have time once in the 150 years to do that. So that's how we made our mother water. And so Dolph was right. It took us almost 2 years. It goes through a process of 2 years before it's ready, to be the mother water.
That there is extraordinary magic, just like Eric explained about the mother water. And that's why Analemma is so simple, because mother water is in a crystal vial. Crystal serves as a superconductor. It's there, but like it's not there. And since water is a broadband absorber, receiver, and transmitter of energy, when it's surrounded by a dominant frequency, which mother water is, every single H2O molecule that comes into close proximity to mother water start to mimic exactly the same structure. That's why it's so elegant. So it doesn't require anything other than that. And as I mentioned, when you treat the water just once, it stays in that very, very, very stable state for years.
And most of the research, what we did, especially in the beginning, we did a lot of research and plants. And actually, we bought a whole greenhouse, 1.5 hectares. And I don't know how much it's in acres, about 6 acres, I think, or something like that. Just to do for testing, just to find out what's happening over there. You can imagine how much money was involved, but we want to go for the truth, nothing else. And not just, try to sell a device or so. And actually, our end goal of all is that we want to have all the water on this planet coherent again, because that's the way nature should be. And so it's not only beneficial for the happy few who are able to, to buy an Analemma one, but for everybody, for every little creature, for every plant, for every insect, for everything.
Can you imagine, this is our plan to install our very environmentally friendly equipment at the beginnings, the wells of rivers. And then everything down the line, all life would thrive. So that could really have powerful impact on the entire planet.
I'll give you an example. After using that water in a greenhouse, like for 2 or 3 years, and the greenhouse that we bought actually what hadn't been used for 10 years, and there was only the sun was shining inside. There was plastic foil on the soil, and before, well, they used tons of Roundup and other stuff in there because they grow roses, so the soil was completely dead. And actually, finally, we sold the greenhouse, and the one who's using it now, he still uses the water. And last year he said, that is amazing. Our cucumbers, usually after 12 weeks, they drop in producing the cucumbers, and we have to destroy them and, put some new plants in it. But now actually they survive for 20, 22 weeks, almost double. So they keep on producing twice as long. So it is actually a kind of longevity thing, but Mario can tell you a little bit more later probably about the study we did on the glycan age. And everything what uses water will thrive from using that water. And how beautiful would it be if we would do all the rivers, all the seas and whatever to bring it back in this coherent state. Yeah, finally, that's our goal.
That's incredible. Yeah, there was a lot there. I was making notes of different points that I want to jump into. I think Mario answered my question, because I was going to ask, are you guys going to run out of the mother water since you can only make it every 150 years? But when Mario said that it influences the water near it, you kind of have an endless supply. Is that correct?
Yes and no. Yes and no. Like the first mother water, there's just a little of it. But we copy that one, and you only can do it once. So it's not like you can keep on copying it endlessly. But I promise you, we have enough to do all of this planet.
That's
just
great.
Just a matter of time and money.
Wow. Yeah, because I'm planning on doing some pretty cool stuff here. Like I'm putting up a geodesic dome greenhouse in the next few months to grow, fruit trees in the snow and stuff. And I'll probably have a little koi pond in there inside. Like I'm wondering just applications of Analemma for, like, say, gardening or farming or a whole house system. Have you had people do creative things where, they just keep the tube stuck in the water that's feeding their plants or whatever?
There are many ways to do that. I mean, there actually a couple of months ago, there was an article over here in the Farmers magazine, the biggest one. And actually, I didn't know that, but these were like pig farmers, and they use like one little vial in the container for all the pigs. And they said, well, we have 50% less sick animals, and they seem to be far more happy since been drinking that water. So they did their own research on that. So we have many anecdotes like that from people who claim, that there's a lot more well-being for the animals, for the plants, etc. But now also, actually, we have devices which you can put like between the tubes, so we can do whole farms. It's not a problem.
Yeah, we've developed technology, so we have products exactly for that, for farms, for whole agricultural aspect is covered, so we can handle big volumes of water as well.
Do the devices like swirl it, and so that you don't have to do it, or how does it?
No, you don't have to swirl. You don't need to work all day, swirl all day to get all the water done. No, actually, you just, it's like you just put the device between the pipes. I have it over here in my farm. Where the water comes in from the municipal. We put a water device in between, and I don't need to do anything. Just drink it.
Wow.
My horses drink it. I mean, when we feed the plants over here.
So there are many. Actually, this is the first product that first application, let's go that way, that we come up with Analemma Water one. The next products are actually going to be exactly for larger quantities of water. So as I mentioned, this filtration system. So we're going to have loads of stuff coming in.
That's really cool. Yeah, I'm trying to think of how I could integrate it into my shove one in one of my pipes or something coming into the house.
Oh, very soon we're going to have a whole house Analemma. So
that's great.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of if we know the size of the pipes, then it's no issue.
Mm-hmm.
We can build it. I mean, we have a couple of them in stock, so it's an easy job.
Oh, that's great! Wow.
It will be market ready very, very soon. So
that's cool. I wanted to jump back to the biophoton thing because I attended a health conference years ago, and I was hanging out at the Miron Glass booth, where they have the violet containers that only allow in infrared and violet light, and it's supposed to preserve the ingredients inside. And they had a book there called Biophotons that I really enjoyed, and it was kind of basic information, but going back to what you were saying, Eric, about Fritz Albert Popp, it was kind of like an elementary school introduction to biophotons. And that seems to be one aspect of water quality that people don't really think about, right?
Mm-hmm. True. You want me to tell you what happens with the biophotons? Yeah. Actually, first of all, you have to understand biophotons, because biophotons actually, it's like also becoming a wild thing. Everybody talks about biophoton treatments and whatever. If you walk in the sun, you have a biophoton treatment because biophotons actually, photons are just part of lights, and but it's a different story than measuring biophotons. Biophotons measurements actually it's been done like in a dark chamber, very dark chamber. If I want to measure my hands first, I have to put on for half an hour dark gloves, so all the spontaneous emission is out of it, and then you put it in a dark chamber, and you're just going to count how much photons are coming out of my hand, and or tomato or whatever. And that says something about the aging and the quality. Actually, okay, let's stick to a tomato. Maybe it looks the same like another tomato, but when it contains more biophoton from the inside, and we proved that it's quite easy. The photons doubled just by changing the water. Actually, that means that there's a lot more health, a lot more energy in that tomato. And you're probably familiar with the phenomena of mitochondria. And the mitochondria, actually, they produce probably the biophotons. And these are actually free radicals. When they produce the ATP, free radicals come free, and they produce the light. So the more active the mitochondria are, and as you probably know, mitochondria are related to aging, to almost every chronic disease. Almost, when your mitochondria are happy, healthy, and they do their thing, you have a lot of energy, and you have a nice, healthy life. And we found out that actually the mitochondria, they're very much interested in water. There's in every cell, there's a lot of things going on over there, how water and mitochondria work together. I don't want to go too much into detail, but they work together. And so by giving the right water, the coherent water, the mitochondria become a lot more healthier, or more, that we don't know because you cannot count them. And that means that in every test that we did, like the biophotons at least doubled in the amount. So that means there's twice as much of energy into, probably the tomato, but also maybe Mario after this can talk a little bit about a glycinate study that we did on human beings. And there's a relationship between bacteria and water, a very important one. Why I jumped from mitochondria to bacteria is because actually they've been proved that mitochondria were bacteria before. So it is actually the bacterial growth which is very, great for when they get the right water. You know everything probably about the microbiome. Don't need to tell you anything about that. Your microbiome in your gut, the bacteria, they do all the job for you. A healthy being has between 1,500 different kind of species in your gut. They do all the job for you. You know, Parkinson's disease has been proved to be, actually because you have a gut problem. Almost all the brain issues now have been, related to the gut, to your microbiome. And we found out that actually that is also a part, and maybe the biggest part, where the water is the most beneficial, because the good bacteria, they thrive on good water. And that's why I was always surprised when people trying to sell, the advice, their water, and they say, well, our water stays always clear, bacteria don't grow in that water. Well, okay, but then what? You drink that water, it goes into your gut and it kills the bacteria over there. That's not a good idea. The bacteria should grow from it, but not the pathogen ones, but, balance it out. And we could prove also to, feed the microbiome with the right water, the microbiome starts growing. And actually our research now, and we'll have our results in a couple of months. We just started on doing a complete microbiome research, human beings, feed them placebo and normal water, and see in a couple of months what happens, what happens actually with the whole microbiome. We're going to test the brain waves, everything's going to be tested at the same time with all these people.
Yeah, it's really exciting research. So all of the studies are double-blind, placebo-controlled, randomized. So we're really excited about this whole research. I mean, just like Eric mentioned, almost everybody now know the extraordinary effect, the extraordinary connection between the health of the microbiome and the health of the entire body. And we already realized that this water, Analemma water, has powerful impact on microbiome. Also, we are doing double-blind, placebo-controlled, randomized ATP study, where we are actually now measuring ATP levels in humans when they drink Analemma water. So that's going to be also extraordinarily exciting, because all of this we already tested on plants, and now we are actually doing all the tests on humans, so that we can definitively prove that something biological remarkable happens when people drink Analemma water.
Maybe you could say something about the glycanage, Mario.
Yeah, glycanage is really interesting. Study. We kind of decided, okay, we want to, for the first big kind of human test, we wanted to use a study that will prove, okay, there is something extraordinary happening here. So we decided to contact Glycanage. It's the most accurate health and wellness test available. They're actually measuring very accurately your biological age in contrast to your chronological age. So a lot of people, due to lifestyle and many environmental reasons, are much older than they're biologically older than their chronological age. So what we did is we took the baseline test to determine biological age of all the study participants, and then they drank the water for only 3 months. And we insisted they didn't do anything else. They didn't change their diets, they didn't change their exercise regime, they didn't do basically anything else. And after 3 months, we did again, we repeated the test, and results were really extraordinary. There were almost every single person in the study experienced 1 to 12 years of biological age regeneration. So their entire system got regenerated on a cellular level. So that was really an exciting research, and now we're actually repeating it one more time just to fortify the results. So there's really a lot of research on the way.
That's really awesome. Wow. So I have a question. So you said the main goal is to make all the water coherent again on planet Earth. What people might be thinking, like, what made it incoherent, or like, isn't spring water coherent, or because it's exposed to the moon cycles and all these things?
Well,
yeah.
it's quite simple. I cannot give you an answer. It is because we don't know what happened in the past, but we found out that even water, where we got from Greenland, we tested many waters all over the world. And, when it comes out of a well, like, in the start of the Ganga and a lot of those sacred rivers, the energy, well, it seems to be coherent, but it loses it very quickly. And why is that? Well, you can guess. I mean, we have satellites, we have a lot of radiation going on over there, we have a lot of toxins going on over there. And don't forget the human mind, which is, the work of Emoto and many other people who prove that your mind has a lot of influence on your body. The whole thing about, positive thinking and stuff like that is actually changing the water system. That's what it does. So I don't need to tell you how much negativity is going on this planet for I don't know how long already. And so probably that had its influence. So things will, until now, almost all the water which we found was not stable. It changed very quickly, after it came out of the source and whatever. I think in the old times, maybe things were differently because this whole vortex idea is because nature does that to regenerate its water. And like if you see a river, it makes a left curve, a right curve, a left curve, a right curve. Actually, that's every time it's a vortex. Left vortex, right vortex, left vortex. And that's how it keeps the water in shape. But in these days, there is nothing anymore what keeps the water in shape. I mean, we build canals which are straight. Nature doesn't do that. And you will almost never see a water like, taking a left curve and then a left curve again. So it's also a little bit nonsense that we say, well, it looks, for the easiest way. It is how nature works to reload itself. We took out almost everything from nature, how to reload itself, if you know what I mean. Your pipes, actually all the pipes that we built in a greenhouse, there were no 90 degrees curves in it. Because water doesn't like 90 degrees curves. It's too hard curve. So all the curves that we make were 45 degrees. And in the beginning, when we did our test, it was our water system, I think the price of it was 200,000 euros, just because when we were feeding the plants, there was no electricity. And when we made the water, there was no electricity. So everything was hydraulic. And because we didn't want to have that influence in the past, there was not a lot of influence on those artificial waves. In the past, there was not we didn't put over 100,000 toxins, in the soil and stuff like that. So these were different times that it was less necessary, probably, to make it stable. We can only guess because, we didn't do our test in the past, but we did our test from water from Greenland, ice water, which should be there for a couple of 100,000 of years. And as soon as we brought it close to a Wi-Fi or station or whatever, it lost its power. So we can only guess.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I use Starlink out here and I unplug it. I usually remember to unplug it at night, my router. But the whole world, I think, is microwaved. People like to believe that there are safe spots in the world. And my belief is the only safe spot from EMF is a Faraday cage canopy that you put over your bed.
But then you have another issue.
Right.
Because I'm not in favor of that. I'll tell you why. Because, stated before, not a matter with quantum information is the building block of everything. And, our body needs information. I'm also an acupuncturist, a chiropractor, and everything over there, homeopath. And everything is about frequency. Almost everything. And, I would like to state one thing. Well, actually, three things are very important. I like to say to people, to my clients, actually, you're a colony of bacteria in a pool of water run by the cosmos. And it's true. But there are proteins and minerals in between, but that's the biggest part of it. If you sleep in a cage of Faraday, you take away also the information what you need, because it blocks all the information. Personally, I tried it. It makes me very nervous to sleep in a Faraday cage, because I need that information out of space, if you know what I mean.
This is where the magic of Analemma happens, actually. When we drink Analemma water, which has this very particular and very stable crystalline form, our body enters the state of coherence. It's like we become the radio, pathways open, so we can actually, from electromagnetic point of view, receive all the relevant information that we need. So it becomes stable. We become stable through the whole electromagnetic smog, let's call it that way. We realized through our research that water becomes extraordinarily chaotic when you expose it to 4G, 5G. It becomes extraordinarily chaotic. But our water remains stable. That's the protective effect of Analemma water is really powerful. So that's also one extraordinary perk of drinking Analemma water. It actually protects you that way. So it's really amazing.
Yeah, I have to fill in a little bit. That doesn't mean that if you're very sensitive to electromagnetic waves, that after drinking the water, you won't feel anything anymore. Or it's a good excuse, to expose yourself a lot. That's not true, because there's more, of course, than water in your body. Also, DNA does something with it. And if you're very sensitive to it, then, like personally, my wife, she's very sensitive for Wi-Fi. She drinks the water. And what we found out, the radiation is a lot less harmful for her, but she still knows when the Wi-Fi is on, if you know what I mean. So it's not like, because then people think, the only thing what we can do, I have to do is drink the water and put the cell phone on my head all day. It's still not a good idea.
Yeah, that's definitely not a good idea.
Yeah. That's great stuff. I like what you said about the Faraday cage. I think maybe if you're in a hotel, like on the 30th floor, it's probably a good idea just temporarily. But
yeah,
I remember hearing about a study they did where they put, I think, a couple men in like a completely insulated from EMF, from all the earth energies, in this like box. And within hours, they started to cry and get depressed because they weren't getting exposed to the earth's field.
Yeah.
And I think the same
we are information. Yeah.
I think astronauts, there's same stories of that too, of them going psychotic. And
Yeah. So that's why I'm not in a favor for that. Actually, I remember research. I read somewhere in a book, I can't remember which book, but they did a research on homeopathy and in Russia somewhere. And when they put like the homeopathy remedy in a Faraday cage, it doesn't seem to work anymore. Wow. So that means more or less that this remedy is also in tune somewhere with the cosmos, and it gets its information somewhere from outside.
Wow. So really quick, I don't want to go too, I guess it's all connected, but now I'm curious your thoughts on grounding and earthing, because I've been doing that while I sleep, and it seems to be a contextual thing, especially going into the wall or directly into the earth. And whether you're rural or in a city, seems to be a lot of variables with connecting yourself to the earth, right?
I would say too. I'm in favor of this whole earthing idea. Our issue is that we don't ground ourselves. We have our rubber shoes on, and so we never ground. When we take our shoes off, usually it's in a house which is isolated under the floor, and with a heating system under the floor, so you almost never get in contact with, with the earth. Well, you look at it this way: the ionosphere the atmosphere is positive. The Earth is negative. So if you want to be like, have a good alignment, if you want to get rid of all the negative energy, not the ions, but the negative energies, you need this grounding, this earthing is very, very, very important. I found out with horses that when you put like on rubber mats, they lose a little bit their concentration when they're over there too long, because they need that grounding. So the grounding is very, very, very important. The only thing I have a little bit personally an issue with, that I have to ground on the electric circuit, because there's a lot of negative vibration on over here. It's like 50 hertz, you know, and you have waves, but you also have waves on waves, if you know, the same like a radio. It's like one wave and you add other waves on it so that you can hear what's over there. So actually you also get waves inside, which I personally don't like. So what I personally do, I just have a cable out of my window, outside, stick it in the ground. So I really want to feel the earth and not through the whole electrical system. So, but I'm really in favor of it. I have this mattress also back home in my house. I like it.
I love it. Yeah, I just finally built a lodestone bathtub built of about 1,000 pounds of magnetite. It's been struck by lightning, and I lined them all to magnetic north and grounded the whole tub. I bathe in my raw goat milk from my goat and Shilajit. So I'm an extremist.
You must be healthy.
I'm working on it. That was great. So I have a really triggering question. I'm sure it's going to trigger people. Vortexing, since you brought it up multiple times, like if someone has a choice between, buying a, $300, $500 vortexing device and spinning their water versus using the Analemma, you would say the Analemma would be better. And one reason is because the coherency lasts longer.
Well, I dare to say that's better, because we tested it all, and there's nothing wrong with vortexing. Huh? I mean, I'm not against vortexing, and it's not harmful. But if you look at the almost 90% of the devices, they use three things, and that is magnets, vortexing, and minerals. But all of them, they can create a beautiful energy in the water, but the issue is it's not like 100% coherent stable, otherwise it would stay. The reason why it is stable, because the way we look at it, it builds like a crystalline structure in it that is so stable. Think of the pyramids in Giza, Egypt. The reason why they're still over there, well, some people think they're 3,000 years old, but they're probably a lot more than 12,000 years old. And not a lot have been changed. They're trying to, even Napoleon tried to, with his guns, he tried to get it down, but it didn't work out because it's been made very stable. But look at it in the same way in the water. When you have your stable crystalline structure in it, it's very hard to ruin it. If you vortex it, yes, it does something, but because it's not stable, that means that it doesn't have the perfect crystalline structure. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, you can look at it in a simple way. It goes back to chaos. So H2O molecules just go back to chaos. With Analemma water, it stays that way for years. That's the only difference. Maybe there are more, but this one is actually very simple to explain.
Yeah.
So, is that a random question? I'm very fortunate to have my own lake on my property that I can kayak on and fish and stuff. If I were to just keep one of your wands just dangling in the water, would that do anything? Would there be a benefit?
Yes, after a couple of 100,000 years. No, I'm joking. Everything depends, of course, on the size. It's not like, it's not a miracle wand. You stick it in one lake and the whole lake will be coherent in 10 seconds. I mean, that's a little bit too much. It depends on, I have a creek passing by over here, and it's about 12 meters broad. And I created something where I pump up the water from out of the creek with cell, what do you call it, with the photon cells, and then run through a pipe where there's water in, just, over time to rearrange the structure of the water of the creek. And to be honest, we don't know yet how, what the ratio should be to do something like that. And actually, in the end of August, I didn't even tell Mario, I'm going to have some discussion with people over here from the Water Alliance, because blue algae is a big problem, in the summertime. We're probably going to do a test somewhere to see if we run the water through our devices, if the blue algae will leave, or at least, won't come. But there's a lot to test over there, but as usually it takes a lot of money, to do that. And so I don't know how big your lake is, but personally, I don't think, just dipping it in or swirl a little bit and think, well, now the whole lake is coherent. That will be a little bit too much.
It's like six acres. Yeah, it's a lot of water.
Yeah, it's a lot of water. Yeah, you need a little bit more sticks. But on the other hand, I'm convinced that if, like, you would stick a stick in the water and with a little bit upside down, with a little bit on top, leave it, for the sun, over time, it sure will help. I'm convinced.
I might do that experiment. Have you guys tested just letting it sit in water versus swirling? Because you guys recommend to swirl it for 10 or 15 seconds. Would just putting it in there and just walking away have a similar effect? Or
those people who did the test on in the pig farm, they just it was just hanging over there. And the issue is why you swirl. Well, it's very fast that you come in contact with all the molecules of the water, and the swirling by itself doesn't do the job. But it's because, well, everything goes very fast, into the contact, and you vortex a little bit. That always helps. So that's the main reason. And I know many people would just put like a stick in a jar and add, pour water in it and leave it just over there.
It's just a matter of time. Well, It's not like if you have a large quantity of water, but in smaller quantity of water, if you just leave it there for a while, it will definitely do the same thing. But in this way, when you're swirling, just like Eric mentioned, like any water molecule that comes into close proximity will mimic the same structure. And when you're swirling it, you're actually going through the entire container. In that way, it gets faster.
That's a great explanation. My listeners sent in questions. Are you guys open to answering some of these?
Of course, sure.
Great. Kind of on the same topic, someone asked, how many swirls should one do with spinning the wand in the water?
Well, we kind of say for 3 deciliter kind of glass, let's say 15 to 20 seconds. And then you can extrapolate from there.
Well, actually, I always like to tell people, use your gut. And it's quite funny. I mean, if you have this wand, if you use it, you know when it's ready. And the issue is always also because, I mean, I did some research a couple of years ago in Sardine, in the blue zones, where people become very old and healthy. And I'm convinced personally that the biggest part why the people become old over there is due to the water. It's like this beautiful village, in the mountains, and it's about 5-hour drives from the main road. My children didn't like that, but anyway, I want to go there. And you see, in a curve, there's the water comes out of the mountains, and all the buses, they stop over there and they get their water. They have their own, feeding their own plants, all the water's over there. So they have, plus, the beautiful microbiome in the soil. And why is it beautiful microbiome? Because I'm convinced that has to do with the water quality over there. If I swirl it over there, I need less time. It's like bringing it in contact with that water, swirled very fast, and then, it's done. if I would use like a dirty chloride water out of the US, we are lucky we don't use chloride over here and no fluor. And so then it's, it takes a longer time. So it depends also a little bit on the quality of the water itself. And the funny thing is, you'll know when it's ready. The bacteria in your gut, your microbiome, your gut will tell you, now it's fine.
But, just as a rule of thumb, so people don't break their heads, how long to use it? When they use it for 15 to 20 seconds in 3 deciliters of water, that would be okay. Just so they don't have to kind of go into the whole psychic mode.
That's great. Yeah, my routine, because I've been drinking, like, I'm friends with the light water people, deuterium depleted water, but I can't swirl it in these, really tapered glass bottles. So I tend to pour this or mix this with my spring water filtered into a copper drinking vessel. And I found that's really nice. To me, I like doing that more than a mason jar because it doesn't, clank as much, and it's just easier. The opening in the copper vessel. I don't know if you guys have seen those copper drinking bottles. It works pretty well. So that's been my routine.
Cool.
They use it in India for that reason. Most people in India, they drink from the copper jar because of that reason. It's very beneficial by itself for water, and it also works well. Also because bacteria, they don't like to grow in water which has been in copper.
Yeah. I'm kind of lazy with cleaning my bottles because I was using like these quartz lined on the inside called like purist bottles, but I found they tend to smell almost like, an algae musk kind of smell if I just keep refilling it with water. And even ozonating it didn't seem to help. It would still be there in the background. So the copper, I could just keep refilling and I pretty much never have to clean it. It's kind of nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So the recharging effect, that's something that we haven't talked about. And you mentioned with the lake conversation, just keeping a little bit of it exposed to the sun. So when you buy your device, it comes with a little pamphlet thing, and you guys recommend putting it out in the sun for, 5 minutes every 2 weeks? What's the reason for that?
First of all, it doesn't need to be. It's not like if you don't put it in the sun, it doesn't work anymore. But go back and how we started, the sun actually gives us the most beautiful quantum information that we need. Our sun is our friend. And we live partly from what we drink, we live partly from what we eat, but we live also partly from the information we get from the sun. I mean, what do we do? At least in our country where you don't have a lot of sun, when the sun is there, everybody goes out and, puts his face in the sun, because all the young meridians actually, they come around your eyes. They love to get the information inside. So the sun is feeding information. Sun is life. So by once in a while, once in 2 weeks, once in a week, some people like to do it every day, some people, whatever, you recharge it a little bit, but it's not like if there is no sun. Otherwise, people get in panic, especially when you would live like in the north of Norway, where there's not a lot of sun, then you have an issue, then you could not use it. That's not true. But it gives this extra kind of information that we like. So we advise to do it, but it's not like it's per se necessarily.
I have one interesting anecdote. During the glycanage study, we informed all the participants to expose Analemma to the sun. And one lady actually, she has this kind of very small, like meter times meter garden with a very kind of short plants. And she put Analemma at the very same spot to kind of expose Analemma to the sun. And what happened after 1 month is that, like, you created a circle around the Analemma, and the plants grew 3 centimeters more longer. It was much more lush around the Analemma than in the rest of the garden. So there is really something very visual that explains how Analemma has what extraordinary influence it has on biological systems.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm gonna have a perimeter raised beds in my dome. Maybe I'll just shove one in each bed.
Awesome. I mean, that would be
Awesome.
amazing to see, actually, because it really has this extraordinary effect. You don't even have to, like, when you just put it next to a plant that is like having problems, you can, I mean, we had gazillion reports of people that had big issues with plants. You know, they're trying to kind of make them thrive and they couldn't. Just by watering with Analemma water, people really had amazing results.
I'm gonna tell you another funny story now. Think about it. The last year in my farm, which is very vulnerable because of lightning and stuff like that, we created, I don't know what the English word is, you know, for you know, when the lightning strikes, you know, that goes past by your house. All of it is made out of copper. And I just put all of what goes down in the soil. I put the quartz tubes with the Analemma water outside of it, you know, just to change the energy in my farm. Seems to work. People like the energy. It was just an experiment. So you can do many things with it.
Wow, that's really cool. Yeah, I received your wand for the first time. I think it was near the end of my winter up here, and I'm somewhat northern latitude here in North Idaho, and I got a new UV light, which you can kind of see behind me. It was like UVA UVB combination, narrow, like 311 nanometers, so different from your normal UV light. And I had the idea to just put the wand in front of it, but now that I'm thinking, with what we've been talking about, that probably doesn't produce biophotons like the sun, right? So is there any benefit if someone has like an ultraviolet light and they put it in front of it?
Yeah, of course it does. But I mean, we call it full spectrum coherent water. So the more full spectrum coherent the light is, the better it is. But there is nothing wrong, you know, to do that. I mean, for me as an acupuncturist, I look at quite simple. UV is what I call the yang energy. Infrared is called the yin energy. And so both of them, and the whole spectrum, has its value. I prefer the sun, but, well, of course, something happens if you put it in. And also something will happen. I did some tests with infrared, and also things happen over there. And even that has been proved, like when you put like infrared light on your belly, it enhances the microbiome in your belly. So everything has its influence.
It's a really random question. Have you guys exposed that water to plasma fields ever? Like, I don't know if you've heard of like the Therify Dan Winter or the Tesla Violet Ray, pretty much like high voltage running through, say argon gas.
I did. The old Tesla devices, just to experiment what happens. And again, everything works, everything does something. And after I put with a UV wand, I have these old UV wands used by these Tesla coils. Put so much energy into it that I don't consider it like normal drinking water anymore. Let's put it that way. But it sure does something.
That's great.
Yeah, this is so interesting. Like, there are so many unknowns. We barely scratched the surface of the magic, of the science of water. So we're going to do, we're constantly investing in research. So it will be really interesting to create Analemma 2.0, which will have like even more power. But we need to test it, so that we went out with this product just because we are 100% sure that is extraordinarily beneficial for basically plants, animals, and humans. For these kind of things, we have to really test it a bit more to see what could and what will happen. But it's definitely interesting.
Awesome. Someone asked, how long does the device last? And Quick funny story. I put it on my deck, um, exposed to the sun, and it was a very windy day, and it blew off my deck and fell about, I don't know, maybe 30 feet onto rocks, and it didn't break. I was shocked. I was certain I was going to walk down my steps and find it shattered, and it survived a hard fall from 30 feet onto rocks, basically. So the thing seems pretty bulletproof. I'm impressed.
Well, don't advise that. I think you're lucky.
You are lucky, yeah. Mine fell from like 2 feet and it broke. So it depends how it happens. Yeah, but it will keep creating coherent water for life if you don't break it. You just need to be very careful with it so it doesn't break.
Great.
Usually when people said to me, well, it seems that it's working less, then we said, well, just put it in the sun for a couple of little while, and then they reported back that it was again doing its job. And it depends, like I said, it depends on the quality of water that you are using. I mean, let's put it that way, if you use it for very nasty water, it has to work harder, to change that one than when you use beautiful water to change it.
Makes sense. Someone asked, would it be beneficial with premixed thicker drinks or only water? So I guess they're saying maybe smoothies or something.
Well, I think yes, it does. Why not? Because a lot of it, almost everything which is inside over there is also water. And I know people that drink the beer with it. They swirl the beer or the wine. Why not?
If it has H2O molecules in it, it will actually start forming liquid crystalline structure, which is the main thing. So yeah.
Actually, this week, a friend of mine, he called me, he said, well, thank you. So I gave the one for as a present for his birthday, and he likes to drink red wine. He said, well, the issue now is that the wine tastes a lot better with the stick, so it's not helping him.
That's great. Someone asked about deuterium depletion. I don't know how this fits into this discussion, but have you guys looked into that, or the relationship with deuterium depleted water in your wand or anything like that?
Only in theory. We know the whole story about deuterium depleted water, and well, I'm convinced that there's truth in the whole story, and we are also convinced to if we would use our technique to make that water, you have a plus, because the deuterium depleted water, the only thing what you do, you take out the deuterium, which is very beneficial, but still it's not structured water. So I always would be in favor to do both.
That's great. Let's see. Have you guys heard of the Somavedic? Someone asked, how is this different from the Somavedic for water structuring?
Somavedic is actually an American company that does some form of structured water. So I'm kind of familiar a little bit with them. But as I mentioned, there are several companies already kind of created some form of coherent water. According to all of our tests, the main difference between ours and everybody else's is the stability. So it won't lose its stability even when you treat it just once. Even after years, it will stay in the same structure. But now, I believe it's the time has come. So I believe there are going to be more and more scientists coming up inspired with water. The water evolution has come. So I believe we really will see more and more things happening.
That's awesome. Yeah, I look at all these different things as different tools, like in your toolbox, and I just find, from my observation, a lot of people prioritize the wrong things, or just rely on one thing or whatever. And anyway, yeah, it can get kind of heated when you talk about different companies that do the same thing, you know.
Yeah. Well, everybody has to follow their own gut, like Eric mentions, you know. So whatever works for people, that's awesome. The main thing for us, we wanted to invest in science. So it's not like something that you say about it. When you have real studies behind it, then those studies speak for themselves. That's kind of our goal, because we really wanted to, and we want to get this water to as much people as possible, so people will actually get the benefit. And when we do that, then we would get the opportunity to actually make entire planet coherent through water.
Have you guys used the Constantine Korotkov like BioWell GDV camera? Because I know he has a little water attachment.
Yes, yes. Yes, I bought a device years ago, and we tested it, and it's very hard to say from that device actually what it does. And, you know, there are many ways to test water, but how do you know how beneficial it is in your body? And so the many things has been said, you know, about structuring of water, and, you know, you get these beautiful pictures, how the crystalline structure looks and blah, blah, you know, many things are going on over there. But the issue is always, okay, maybe that's true, but what does it do in a biological system? And that's why we did all our tests. That's why we worked in it for 13 years, you know, to test over and over again, which is not easy, because you need like one complete season to grow the tomatoes and the cucumbers and everything. And the last couple of years, I mean, we had like a completely fully optimized setup in a greenhouse. Nobody was there. They got the water automatically, so nobody is involved. Nobody knows which plant even gets the water. Because the human mind, as you know, is a very strong thing. If I want that plant because it gets good water, that plant will grow because I want it to grow, if you know what I mean. So we did, all of it was double-blind, placebo controlled, and all the measurements, like, well, you know, going from electrodes into computers, and all these data have been collected, you know, for over years, and nobody was involved, you know, nobody, and all the water which was there, like, were in containers and stayed there for months, and we're just feeding the plants, just to be sure and don't talk nonsense. So neither Mario, neither me are going to say all the other devices are nonsense. That's not true. I mean, everybody does its best, so I wish everybody best. But for us, because we had our goal, well, our real goal is to help this planet. We want to be sure what we are doing. And now we are pretty sure what we are doing, just because we tested everything in a biological system. So to come back to that device of Korotkov, well, we saw differences. You see something, but what does it say? How does the biological system react on it? That doesn't say it.
I need to dig mine out. I think I have 2 of their cameras laying around here in my office somewhere. Yeah. And for those that aren't familiar, it's basically a little dark camera where you put each fingertip in, if you're 10 fingers, if you're human, and it sends a little electric shock that you don't feel, and you emit a little blip of extreme low frequency ultraviolet light, and then it shows that on the screen. And it's different from your aura, they say. It's like your biofield, but it's pretty much what your biophoton emission would look like if you could physically see it. And they map that to TCM meridians. But, you know, if you're doubling the biophoton in the water, I would imagine that drinking the water would change that light emission that you could see on the camera, right? So,
well, but it would double the water. The biophoton itself are not in the water. It's a biological system who's going to produce that. And like we did a lot of tests on, you know, on we didn't talk about it, but also on human brains. You see it almost change immediately after drinking the water. You get a more coherent, the brains actually become more coherent, the left right brain connection will be better just immediately after drinking the water. And we wanted to stick to systems that are there, which have been proved to be scientifically. That doesn't mean that, like the device of Korotkov and many others of them, I do consider them as nonsense. That's not true. But for too long time, I spent time in science, and it's very easy to say I don't believe it because it's not scientifically. So this device, it's very nice for yourself, to prove stuff if you want, to see if there are changes, but on a scientifically base, it's still hard to use it.
That's why we wanted to do the same thing. That's why we did this double-blind, placebo-controlled, randomized ATP study, where we measure the rise of mitochondrial energy in humans. Very soon, we're going to have the results of that study. So we just went we wanted to do the same thing, but so that it's scientifically viable, that we can publish the study, and that everybody in the scientific world will actually recognize it and approve it. So this was our way of going about it. What I just want to come back to this brainwave study, which is really, really amazing. It was a double-blind study with it was a golden standard with twins. So twins are genetically identical. So we just gave regular water to one and coherent water to other, and just like Eric mentioned, their brainwave activity changed immediately after drinking. So that's the fastest way you could actually see a change when you drink the water, because it's electromagnetic, so to speak. So it happens instantly. This positive effect happens almost instantly. And then after a while, we changed to another twin, and it was just reversed. So the other twin got the result. So it's really something. Brainwaves are fast. You can see the change almost immediately.
Wow. And was it an increase in the delta and theta brainwaves?
Actually,
Go ahead, Mario.
The change was very much visible in delta and theta, just like you mentioned. There is this cooling effect on the brainwaves. And actually, after that, we did a pilot study with Alzheimer patient, and also results were actually awesome. So this is also one angle which we will be exploring. And Eric is now doing also double-blind, placebo-controlled, randomized study on brainwaves specifically. So we're also going to have new batch of data coming very soon in that particular arena.
That's awesome. Wow. Have you guys looked at transdermal application, like, using coherent water in like a spray bottle and applying it to the skin and measuring that, or putting it in a sensory deprivation float tank or a pool and seeing, just being exposed on the external part of the body to coherent water? Have you guys looked at that at all? Or?
I don't think we did. Yeah.
No, not yet. I mean, I shower with it. I mean, I'm convinced when you would have a pool, well, that's one of our wild ideas that we have, to create a whole new kind of wellness thing, with all the kind of all this water, giving information into the swimming pool and stuff like that. And the issue is, again, how are you going to test what is happening? And so the result, finally, the way you're going to do the research will be the same if you drink it. But I'm convinced, I mean, there's only one issue. Since I use this device in my farm when I shower, I use a lot of water because I don't want to go out of the shower, if you know what I mean. And so it has its benefits, but all water is becoming more expensive. So I need to be a little bit more careful with it. But I for me, showering under it, especially cold water showers, actually, are very beneficial from it, because you have your energy field. And people who tell me, well, energy field is nonsense, then you don't understand anything about life, because we have our nerves, we have a whole system, our meridians and stuff like that, and they produce energy. And I always, after when I had a long day work, I feel a lot of difference if I would take like a shower in the US chloride, which is not beneficial for me. I don't feel better after that. Or I take my shower, with this coherent water. Well, that's a big difference. But we didn't do any research on that.
That's awesome. Yeah, it sounds like the only thing I'm missing on my system is the whole house Analemma, because I just got a shower head for my remodeled bathroom that's 29 vortexes. So there's these shower heads that are built in Europe. I'm going to start reselling in my site called Aqua Dia, and they run it through. You can choose the crystals, 2 or 3 types of minerals, but then it vortexes it through, and it creates this beautiful like mist.
Cool.
What's the name of it?
Aqua Dia, and they're I forget which part of Europe. I want to say Austria or something like that. Aqua Dia, but yeah, there's so many cool water, tools and things that I find, and it's really fun. So, but yeah, what you guys have created is really innovative and awesome, and yeah, really appreciate you guys taking the time to do this. This was really fun.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having us, man. So much. I mean, we like to talk with people who understand and recognize the importance of water. Everybody very soon will recognize it, but now in these stages, we really kind of want to get the message out.
Yeah. I was honestly skeptical at first. My friend Adam Marafiotti introduced me to it, and he's a skeptic and he vets stuff well. And so I was like, whoa, it's a small investment. Let me try it. And I was shocked at the immediate difference that the feel of the water in my mouth was totally different after using the wand. So
even the taste range, that's the fastest way to convince people. And just take a glass of water, taste it, swirl it, taste it again. The feel in your mouth is completely different.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Analemma-water.com, and people could check out the studies that you guys mentioned and and read about it.
They can actually maybe also a good way to kind of be informed, because we really have a lot of things going on, new products and new studies. They can just subscribe to our newsletter, and we are going to informing people about whatever new is happening as well.
That's awesome. Can you tell the timeline of when the next product, or specifically the whole house system?
Whole house system is actually very, very soon. It's almost market ready. So I believe in very short, I'm going to say a date so nobody can hold me to it, but I believe within month and a half, we're going to actually have a product to push it out. So yeah.
That's exciting. Well, I'll let you guys know if I, see a miracle happen here on my farm homestead.
For sure.
With your wand.
For
sure. If my tree goes through my greenhouse or whatever and grows, 500 feet tall.
Well, I would like to say something about that, because people always expect that when things are good, they grow fast, and that's not true. And a lot of times people talk, does the tomato plant give more fruits? Probably not, but the quality is a lot better. I would like to compare it with a willow or an oak. Which one is the strongest, and which one grows the fast? So growing fast doesn't mean that's healthy. Just something to think about.
It's a good point. That's awesome. Well, Eric and Mario, thank you so much, and stick around as I close out the show. This was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much.
Well, that wraps up today's show. I love how humble they are. I've been studying water for my entire health journey. When I got started in raw veganism, it was heavily tied to water, structured water, and pretty much at the exact same time I got into raw foods, I also got into studying drinking water. And I heavily experimented. I didn't just latch on to one thing and end it there. Like distilled water is the best water to drink, or reverse osmosis, or well, or get hooked into the rewilding community and get obsessed with only drinking spring water, which is not very practical for most people to drive an hour or two to a spring, fill up jugs. I've broken countless 5-gallon glass carboys back in the day and flooded my car, which ended up being a huge mold issue. So when it comes to practicality, I think most people are going to go the water filtration route. And I have an old episode on that if you go back, my thoughts on drinking water, and I'll be talking about it more as Mitolife releases its own under-counter drinking water filter that's different from any filter on the market that's beyond reverse osmosis. Whenever I travel to California to visit my family and friends, I have to drink the filtered municipal water. And my experience has been going from filtered municipal water for the first 30 years of my life to filtered well water to now filtered spring water. The source water really matters because the water is already relatively clean, especially when we're talking about well and spring water. There's going to be a lot less pharmaceuticals in there than you would get from municipal water. And some people go as far as to say homeopathic residues of all of these different compounds. And I'm a really sensitive guy. Whenever I try a new supplement, I feel it. Whenever I drink different waters, I feel the effects really easily. And what I've noticed is when I drink filtered San Diego water, I don't feel as hydrated as I do when I drink even filtered well water. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that, but the Analemma takes care of one of those, which is bringing the water back to life by doubling the biophoton emission in the water. What I've noticed the last few years in the alternative health community is a lot of talk about hydration and how we shouldn't have to drink water. We should only get it from juices and fruit and vegetables and milk. And I think a lot of that stems from the late Agenus Vonderplanets, the raw primal guy that ate fermented organs that were moldy. And a lot of people just take these ideas and run with them. And before you know it, you have hundreds of influencers making the same social media posts with the exact same information, and nobody fact-checked it to dig deeper than what they're regurgitating. So yes, minerals are important for hydration. They're crucial. But there's all of these other aspects that are often not talked about. If someone's filling their glass of water straight from the faucet, from their filter tank or whatever it is, and drinking it without doing anything to it, I would imagine that that water is not going to hydrate that person as well as if they did anything to it. Put it in Myron glass and put it in the sun, vortexed it in a Bed Bath & Beyond Duet Water Revitalizer, or use the MRET pitcher that Shen Blossom sells and other companies, or the Analemma wand. Just doing one of those things can make a huge difference in how that water is absorbed in your body. What I like about the Analemma wand is it doesn't use electricity. It's quick, 15 or 20 seconds. It's relatively affordable compared to these $500 machines, like I mentioned, the Vortexer and the MRET pitcher. And most importantly, it's practical. It's a very small device that you can put in your bag. You can travel with it. You can take it on an airplane. That practicality piece is so important because if it's not practical, people are not going to do it or continue doing it. This device is just so easy to use and it works. The first time I used it, I was really surprised how different the water felt in my mouth. I swirled it around before I drank it, and it just felt denser, like there was more to it. I really enjoyed the part of the conversation about vortexing. I know a lot of people only do that to their drinking water. I found it fascinating when Eric said that the memory won't stay for a long time with just vortexing the water. And hearing that was kind of a relief, because the two vortexers that I've tried, the duet water revitalizer is just so loud that you have to put it in another room. And then there was a quiet one that just came out called Mayu, but that one broke on me 2 times. The motor just burned out, and I wasn't running it 24/7. I was just running it for 5 minutes at a time. So as far as I know, there's no good vortexing units on the market. You have to build your own, like I did years ago with what's called a magnetic stir, and you put a magnetic little bead in there. It's like a magnetic pill capsule, and that spins around, but you could only do a very small amount of water at one time. So as far as I know, that Bed Bath & Beyond Duet Water Revitalizer is the best vortexer still on the market, but it's about $500. But instead of going to that, what I would recommend is getting the MRET, molecular resonance effect technology pitcher. That's my first step, is I get the water out of my drinking water filter, I fill up that pitcher, I run it for a half hour by just pressing the button once, and then from there I pour it into my copper drinking vessel, and then I'll stir it with the Analemma wand each time I fill up the bottle. And to me, that's a really practical, really quick and easy way to bring my water back to life. Even though it's spring water, it's traveled a long way and it's gone through my filters and a lot of 90-degree turns. And I just like to make sure that my drinking water is the highest quality it could possibly be. I think it's really important and often overlooked. And really, the sky's the limit. If you want to get really crazy, you can get the Crucial 4 ozonator with an oxygen tank and pump in ozone into cold water. I use the 5 ppm deuterium depleted light water, and it just goes on and on how far you want to take this. And I think it's contextual, it's situational. So depending on a chronic illness that someone's healing from or an injury, that's probably the time to go harder and to do more things to heal. But for everyday use, the Analemma and maybe one other thing is plenty. So if you want to check them out, you can go to analemma-water.com. Under science, they have their different studies. They have the testimonials, the FAQ. Currently, they only have 2 products, which is the same wand, but with the luxury version, you get the walnut case. So it's a little more protected and bulky. But if you just want to get started for $180, and if you use the discount code Blackburn, you save 10%. I'm really blown away with this product. It's fun to charge it out in the sun now that we're into summer here in North Idaho. And it's been an interesting experiment to tune in and see if I feel a difference putting the Analemma wand out in the sun every day versus just once a week. My website is matt-blackburn.com. I have my recommended products up there, my CLF protocol under blogs. I have recipes for gummies and pancakes. And if you click on shop, I have all of my recommended products. I've been so busy here setting up the homestead that I haven't added any new products on there for the last 2 or 3 weeks. But I do have an update on the topic of cookware. So this is a very hot subject in the health community, what to cook with, and there's so many belief systems and gets really heated actually. I recently did a cast iron experiment because I thought that going back to an old way would be better, but what I found is that it was another job that I was undertaking, because unlike ceramic cookware, like oziri is my favorite, it's very easy and fast to clean, and you're not having to scrub off residue on there that's caked on. That's happened to me several times using cast iron, even with seasoning it properly. People will say, oh, you didn't season it enough, or you didn't season it right. I spent hours on YouTube researching how to properly season it, and the consensus seemed to be that PUFAs season cast iron better than saturated fats. So I went to that and tried different seed oils, and it did make it non-stick for a while, but then it went back to being a nightmare, where the last straw was one breakfast I lost 2 out of 3 of my eggs because it got cooked into the pan and there was no recovering them. So I'm back to Extrema, which I have on my website, and Oziri I don't have any financial affiliation with, but that's OZERI. I learned about those from my mom when she bought them for me for Christmas a few years ago. With the Extrema, all I use that for now is their saucepan, which is nice for heating up, tomato sauce if you're going to cook pasta, or to heat up water for tea. And if you're into baking, I think the Extrema is definitely the way to go. So if you look at my website, it's the last listing there on my store if you're interested in checking those out. And Mitolife is my brand. You can find that at mitolife.co. A lot of really exciting things coming with Mitolife in the next 2 or 3 months. By the end of summer, the entire product line will have gotten a facelift, and I'm always looking to improve everything. So we're going to be coming out with liquid versions, dropper bottles of at least the vitamin E and the vitamin K2, but maybe more. And we'll be upgrading the oyster extract to a product from oysters that's actually not available in the United States. I've looked all over for it and nobody's selling it, so I will be the only US source for this very unique oyster product, which I'm really excited about. Other than that, check out the Mitolife Academy. That's the exclusive content on YouTube, 2 private videos a month, and 1 Q&A the last day of every month, where I answer questions and talk about new things that I've been studying. So thanks for sharing this podcast with your friends and family. The growth has been very humbling, and I'm very appreciative of all of you that are helping to get the word out about alternative health. See you guys next Friday. Stay supercharged.